Good evening, everybody. Uh, Great to have you here. Lauren is going to get us started in just a minute. So if you need to run to the restroom or grab something, feel free to go and do that now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I'm going to start the recording now so that we can send out this meeting for people who couldn't make it today. Oh, it's already being recorded. Great. Okay. While folks are joining, you can introduce yourself in the chat. Please provide your name, pronouns, and where you're calling in from. And you can share a sentence about why you decided to join the lobby meeting tonight.
It's a little bit loud, so I'm sure we'll see how 75 is. Go ahead, if folks are hungry, we have, it's new vegan, so it's collard greens, sweet potato, mac and cheese, and yes, I tested the mac and cheese and it's delicious. And chicken brummies, so like.
All right. In addition, we recommend that you put your legislative district into your Zoom name, and you can do that by clicking on the participants in the bottom left corner and then clicking on your name and select rename. We're gonna drop a link in the chat so that you can look up where your district is. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We want to make sure that everyone can easily follow along with the training. You can turn on closed captions by selecting the closed captions icon located in the Zoom toolbar on the desktop. On mobile, if you don't see a closed captioning button, you'll need to select the back arrow in the top left of your screen, and then the settings cog icon, and then meetings, and then enable show closed captioning when available. If you are having difficulty, you can just message us in the chat and we'll try to help you out. All right. And this is going to be a hybrid training tonight. We have folks in Baltimore and in Prince George's County joining us. They're getting their food and setting up their space. And so while they're doing that, we're going to take until 6:45 to get to know each other a little. So there's some questions up on the screen, um, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to answer these questions. I'll give you a couple minutes to fill it out, and I'll put a link as well to the quiz.
And Lauren, you should also copy and paste the code for the people who are using the link to access it. I think they might need the code that's listed right under there.
Okay. Okay, let us know if you're having any issues with that. Thank you to those of you who are sharing. You can take a look on the screen of what people are saying. I think some common stories here are, more extreme weather. People are mentioning the hot summers, more storms, extreme weather, yep. And also, I like that I'm seeing what people are doing um, to make change in this time of rapid climate change.
Lauren, I'm trying to get in on my desktop because my phone, I can't have limited access. So if you see my name twice, this is Gail Briscoe. You can let me in again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Then I would close off the phone so it won't be a feedback. See, connected. I might not be able to get on with this. So it's connecting.
I see someone said that insect numbers are noticeably lower. It's definitely true. Yeah, flooding from increased rainfall.
And there is this second question that we're inviting folks to answer that you should also be seeing. Inviting you to think about how climate change is impacting your daily life.
Thanks for sharing in the chat, those who can't get into the Menti. Yeah, I'm seeing that heat and flooding are big issues for us.
Hey everyone, this is Bear. I'm not going to stay long because I'm under the weather, but I just wanted to say hello and I'm so proud of everyone. Keep doing it and have a wonderful holiday. And Mustafa, you're doing amazing.
Thank you. That's so, so kind. And I'm sorry that you're under the weather. Thanks for joining us for a little bit.
Oh, you're welcome. I know you guys are doing some amazing things. I have mentees that's been a part of um, your initiatives and things, and they're a lot of success. So not a problem for me to stop in for a few and support you all. So keep being amazing.
Thank you.
I put in the chat that I couldn't remember where I was living because, my family has been in California for 5 generations. And I moved out here to Baltimore. And all of a sudden I hear the word brush fire and I say, where am I? I heard fire on the news and there was a brush fire last year. And I'm just, wow.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, we're definitely having longer droughts mixed with extreme rain, which causes more flooding because the soil is so dry. I see here someone mentioned rising costs due to weather disruptions, and they're cutting energy use to help with that. That's another common thing that we are seeing now, that a lot of people's energy bills are rising now due to climate change. All right, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for all the great responses here. I love hearing what you guys have to say. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to the space. My name's Lauren. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a Silver Spring resident. I work at the Chesapeake Climate Action Network, and I am very interested in teaching you guys about doing some lobbying and getting our voices heard. I want to invite our other facilitators to briefly introduce themselves. Mustafa, do you want to start?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Mustafa, he, him, I work to be, supporting our organizers and our volunteers across the organization, and I'm just thrilled to be here. And I want to say that we actually are doing a hybrid training. Folks may be aware. So we have a lot of you joining virtually. We have a whole crew of folks that are joining in person in Prince George's County. with Beth and in person in Baltimore City with Dustin. And so we could just see Dustin or Beth. Are you by chance available to introduce yourselves and to say hi? If not, I'm happy to do a quick introduction of the both of you.
I'm here and can say hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, folks online. Hi, Baltimore. This is Prince George's. My name is Beth Landry. My pronouns are they, them. I'm facilitating our group down here and really excited to hear and see everybody joining. Thank you.
And Dustin, are you there?
Yes, we are here.
Dustin.
Team Baltimore is here live and in full effect. My name is Dustin Branch. I'm the Baltimore Regional Coordinator. I use he, they pronouns and live in the beautiful Mount Vernon neighborhood of the greatest city in the country, Baltimore.
Amen.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Great. It's so good to see so many people in person. I hope you're having a great time over there. I will shout out our agenda and then we can get started. So to quickly run through what we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to go over kind of the political moment we're in right now. And then we're going to share a brief overview of the legislative priorities that CCAN has right now. And then we're going to share the best practices for lobbying, share how you can schedule meetings, model a lobby meeting, and then we'll take a short break. We'll break up into smaller groups when you come back and we'll practice. We'll have a group debrief. We will then highlight opportunities for you to lobby with us and finally share some next steps. So Mustafa, why don't you get us started?
Fantastic. All right, great. Thanks, Lauren. So I think I don't have to tell the folks on this call that we are in a very challenging political moment. But I do want to take a few minutes just to ground ourselves in a framework, particularly from a climate justice perspective of the moment that we're in. You know, the Trump administration, of course, has been stripping SNAP benefits. They're attempting to cut the ACA and healthcare subsidies. And our energy costs have been rising as the White House has put so many eggs with its competition with China into AI. And in turn, this is the reason why trillion-dollar companies like Google and Amazon have been trying to move forward with building data centers, which are, of course, a huge energy suck. And they've also stopped, the administration has stopped permitting for wind projects and are pulling the rug from underneath our states in terms of federal dollars that were set aside for renewable energy projects. And so this is causing energy prices to skyrocket as fossil fuel companies are raking in billions of dollars in profit. And some of our state elected officials are both having to pick up the pieces, right, to fill in the gaps. And some are also just afraid of standing up to Trump and the fossil fuel oligarchs. And so last year, we transformed a bill that Democratic leadership in Annapolis put forward that included incredible incentives to help fossil fuel companies build gas plants in Maryland. That's even including stripping requirements of public notice for permit hearings and allowing the community to have a say. And so our volunteers showed up in Annapolis every week to rally, lobby, make calls, send emails, and write postcards. And we heard directly from legislative offices that they were being overwhelmed by our outreach. And the good news is, of course, is that it worked. We transformed that bill into legislation that provided significant incentives for solar, wind, and battery storage. And unfortunately, our efforts, though, to do a study to determine how much big fossil fuel companies that do business in Maryland should be paying for their contributions to the climate crisis, that ended up being vetoed by Governor Moore because he didn't want to pay for any studies. And now we're in the midst of a campaign to override the governor's veto come January. After hundreds of millions of dollars that are set aside for weatherizing and electrifying and utility systems for working class Marylanders, were redistributed to the general fund to cover budget shortfalls and holes, that left Marylanders to pay for skyrocketing bills. So we are committing in this legislative session to be really clear-eyed about the challenges that our leadership is facing, and know that's going to take a mass movement of people across the state to provide cover to decision makers and to create space for our legislators to become our heroes and champions for our climate justice platform. And so I'm going to talk just briefly about the priority pieces of legislation. For some of you that maybe attended our Maryland legislative preview about a month ago, this will be a refresher. But I also, as I talk about these bills, what I want you to think about is not necessarily to become the experts in the bills yourselves, but to think about what's the values and the vision that's in this bill and how it connects to your story, for what are the things you are aspiring for yourself and your community in this climate justice fight. So the most important thing for our really great lobbying work from constituents is telling a great story, and the legislators remember much more about how you made them feel as opposed to particular statistics that you present them with, which experts can do that when they lobby them. So the first thing I just want to briefly remind folks about is that we're in this Renew Act study bill fight right now. So this is going to be a live fight through just the beginning of the legislative session, and the first week that session's open, the week of January 14th. We are hoping that we're gonna that the Senate President and the Speaker will call for a veto session where we'll have an opportunity to override the governor's veto on this particular study bill. The big thing here is that we just need to know. We need our government to and our experts to tell us how we should determine the costs of the climate crisis as it relates to the amount of emissions from that big fossil fuel companies have been doing business in the state for over 20 years. What should they be required to pay? Because we know right now that all of the costs that are consequences of like extreme weather events are being paid for by our tax dollars, are being paid for by Marylanders. So we actually need to know what are the costs of the consequences of extreme weather events, literally the financial costs. And we also need to come up with a fair and equitable way to these companies to make them pay for their for these costs to our communities. So, I want my children just to, I have two little kids, one that's 4, another girl that's 3, and I want for them to know that we told the fossil fuel companies that they needed to clean up their own mess. I'm sure, particularly for those of you who have had kids at any point, one of the things that, when my 4-year-old drops paint on the floor or creates any mess, I say, Miriam, it's time, you got to clean up your mess. And I want for the leadership and the fossil fuel companies to follow the same standards that we set for our children. They need to clean up their own mess. So the next thing here I want to talk about is Delegate Charkoudian's solar bill. So we're really excited to move forward the solar reform that was in last year's Abundant and Affordable Clean Energy Act. I'm going to prompt Lauren just to put into the chat for those who are joining virtually the solar bill fact sheet. Many of the legislation last year, the Abundant and Affordable Clean Energy Act, was sponsored by Delegate Charkoudian and also by Senator Benjamin Brooks. And so many of the provisions in that legislation were incorporated into leadership's energy package last year, but the reform of the solar SREC program did not make it into the leadership energy package. So this bill will ensure that more solar is built by reforming the SREC program. And so the reform will create a process for solar incentives, basically, to be updated by each type of solar industry regularly. This is the important thing to know about it. The bill will also enable balcony solar projects to ensure that every household, no matter if you are a renter, condo owner, or someone with a bad roof, can have the opportunity to plug in solar panels. You know, so for myself, I live in DC, and the only way that I was able to afford to put solar on my roof is because the solar company agreed to buy my SRECs, thus reducing the upfront cost from I think about $30,000 to about $2,000. And even in that case, $2,000 is out of reach for most people. So this bill is trying to make solar ubiquitous and accessible to all. So the questions that you need to really think about when you lobby and tell the story of why this legislation is important to you is, you know, number one, if you have access to solar, how did you get it? How are you able to afford it? And if you don't have access to solar, why is that? And what would it take for you and your community to be able to afford that? So that is what I want to highlight on the solar bill. On the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act, I'm also going to prompt Lauren to pop that link into the chat. But our partners at the Sierra Club have been taking a lead on this legislation for the past few years, and we're showing up in solidarity this session on this issue. This bill is sponsored by a delegate, Mark Edelson, and Senator Hedelman. So this bill would require MDOT to measure the greenhouse gas emissions of all major capital transportation projects in the state's 6-year capital transportation budget. So the bill would require MDOT to offset greenhouse gas emissions from highway expansion projects that are over $100 million by providing clean transit alternatives to affected residents. So, but really, why are we advocating for this? We want our communities to have robust, safe, and accessible, clean, and public transit options to reduce our emissions and to promote a better quality of life and healthier communities. And in DC, where I live, there are some streets that are simply not safe for bikes, and there are some bus routes that take notably more time than it does to drive. And in some of these neighborhoods, I would like, if I had this opportunity in my city, to have more bike lanes and to also have bus-only lanes to increase the speed of the routes. So the question you need to think about when you're thinking about this legislation is, what is the challenge that you've had with access to varied transportation options in your community? How has that impacted your daily life? What would it look like if you could have clean transit options that would be able to get you to the places that you go on a regular basis? Those are some of the questions I would think about from your own personal perspective on why this is important. The next thing I want to share here is the Climate Restitution Fund. And this is legislation that's being sponsored by Delegate Sheila Ruth and Delegate Jen Terrassa. So we're hopeful that this time, that there will be a time that's going to come when it is expected for states to bring lawsuits against fossil fuel companies. And this legislation authorizes the Attorney General to investigate, commence, prosecute, or defend any suit or action that holds entities accountable for climate change. So the bill also ensures that those who are most liable for climate change can be held more liable than entities who are less responsible. So right now, if any entity is more liable in a specific instance than another entity, they actually have the same liability in the courts. So we're not sure when the right time will happen, for Maryland to be filing a lawsuit against the fossil fuel companies. But what we do want to do is proactively set up some legal framework for the lawsuits to prevail when those need to be filed. So the questions I would think about on this very technical issue are, when did you learn about the value of cleaning up your own mess? Very similar to the Renew Act. Who taught you that value? Who taught you that story to clean up your own mess and to take accountability for your own actions? What are the consequences of climate change that you have observed that fossil fuel companies should be held accountable for? It's not just extreme weather events, right? It could be a lot of other things. So that is on the Climate Restitution Fund. The last major piece of policy that I want to talk about is the Strategic Energy Investment Fund. This is a special fund that collects money from what they call alternative compliance payments that are paid by Maryland utility companies, and also from revenue from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative auctions. So, however, in recent years, that money has been redirected to fill in holes in the state's budget. I believe it's north of $300 million that's in the Strategic Energy Investment Fund, and about 75% of that has been redirected to fill in holes in the general budget. So it's supposed to be used for Maryland Energy Administration grants, climate action, and utility bill assistance. And these uses will support Maryland to build more clean energy projects and make energy more affordable. And so one proposal that we're like thinking about is to protect the CEF, is to shrink the fund by cutting the amount of money received from the ACP payments. I know this is a little bit counterintuitive, but really our intention here is that we want to make sure that whatever the volume of funds are, it's used for its intended purpose, and not to be paying the salaries of the General Assembly staff or to be paying for other social programs. And so that's what we're trying to do here. But what we will be doing is a pressure campaign just to let legislators and the governor know that we care about the special funds, and do what we can to ensure that the fund limit the amount that the fund is actually rated. So the two questions to really think about if this is legislation, the legislation that you are motivated by is, do your children go to a school that has had net zero updates to its infrastructure? Do you know, to its buildings? Do you know someone who is getting utility assistance? And particularly in this climate, affordability is what people are thinking about a lot, and a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. I think it's critical that we do what we can to protect these funds. Okay. Great. So I want to talk, we'll have some opportunities later on for specific questions, but continue just to think about what these bills mean to you, just the values that are in these bills, the intention of where they're trying to go, and why that's important and valuable to you and your community. So the next thing and make sure, Lauren, if you haven't already, just in the chat, put the link to the CEF fact sheet, please. The next thing I want to talk about is scheduling lobbying meetings. So a core part of our grassroots lobbying efforts is scheduling meetings with your legislators and sharing your story about why you support these climate priorities. So to request a meeting, first, I want you to find the list of your elected officials by entering your address on the MyMGA lookup tool that Lauren is dropping into the chat for those who are in the virtual space. Then open up a tab for each of the state legislators, not the US senators or representatives, but from the state Senate and the state delegates, and use their email addresses at the bottom of their profile. Every district is different, so you may have 3 delegates listed or just 1. So we'll send you our handy template later on as a follow-up to this to request your meeting in a follow-up email with your materials. And we'll just want to make sure that you have the legislator's title correct, like Senator Mustafa or Delegate Beth, and provide a couple of dates and times when you're available to meet. You could be doing this before session or as an in-district meeting, or you could be doing it during session. And let your organizer know that you have or will be requesting the meeting, and we'll connect you with volunteers to join you and support you along the way. I want to share a little bit in terms of tips and strategies for the lobby meeting itself. So a key to having a great meeting with a legislator is just having a predetermined agenda and roles. So this includes having a meeting facilitator, somebody who's just responsible for leading the meeting, initiating the meeting, doing introductions, providing a meeting overview, closing, and just keeping the meeting on track. Then we want to have storytellers. The storytellers make the message personal, as we've talked about, and then the pitchers. Now, sometimes the storytellers and the pitchers, they're the same person doing both. But the pitchers are just people who are prepared to make the direct ask for what we want the legislator to do. And then there's somebody who is focused on taking notes that would also submit a lobby meeting report form. It's a Google form that will also be sent out in a follow-up email. And then having somebody that's just keeping track of time, and you can also have supporting actors. There's a strength in numbers. Not everybody has to have a formal role. The next thing here is I would encourage folks to have at least 3 people at your meeting. These meetings don't have to be big, but it's good to at least have a small group of folks there to be meeting together. And the lobby captain will usually start off the meeting with introductions, demonstrating appreciation to the legislator. You, particularly if this is your first time meeting with the legislator, I would encourage you to look up like their bio and to look up the things that they really talk about as things they've accomplished, as being proud of. See if you can find something in there that you find inspiring to yourself. And it's a great opportunity for the person who's leading the meeting or anybody who's participating just to share their appreciation for something that the legislator has done. That should be genuine. And you'll want to make sure that you, of course, move into the personal stories. You have somebody who's prepared to make a strong ask, and that you have, an opportunity for some give and take. The legislator or their staff is going to respond with some questions. Some of these questions you may not be able to answer, but that's okay. We take note of those questions. You name those questions in the lobby meeting report form, and the person who knows the answers will get back to them. But there's an opportunity for it to do a two-way street and to be building a relationship with your legislator that's beyond any of these singular issues. And then ending with a clear process for following up with the legislator, saying to them that this was great, thank you so much for meeting with us. We will follow up via email just with our understanding of your commitments and our next steps, and to keep this conversation moving. Okay. So with our storytelling, I'm going to prompt Lauren to put links to some storytelling worksheets in the chat. But the most important component of this meeting, along with having a clear ask, is just telling the personal story of why this issue is important to you. Not why this issue is important to everybody else, not just why the large-scale impacts of the climate crisis. Lots of people are the direct recipients of the consequences of the climate crisis and don't show up to lobby. So what is it about the challenges that you have faced, a choice that you've made that has brought you here to this moment, you? And think about the personal details. I like to think about the sensory details, the moments in which you realized that you were facing a challenge, where you had to make a choice. And inevitably, the outcomes of this challenge and choice that you've been presented with have brought you here to this moment to lobby for this legislation. So the second piece here is on the ask, right? So the important thing here is to be really direct, clear, and specific. When you're making the ask to your state delegate, do you support the Transportation Climate Alignment Act? They will say yes to that. That means that they're probably likely to vote for it, but it's actually a different question to say, Delegate Lauren, you are on the Environment and Transportation Committee, and we're hoping for this to be brought up for a vote. Will you be voting for it to get this bill passed out of your committee? A much more specific question. And as you get these meetings scheduled, we can help you make sure that you're feeling good and you have a clear ask that you're making to them. But it's important to be as clear as possible because we want to be clear on the commitment that they're making. Providing a one-page leave behind, we have fact sheets on all the pieces of legislation, so you'll have copies of those. It's great to leave that behind as you are making the ask. The worst possible outcome is that you leave the meeting with the legislator and you have sort of no idea either why you were there or what happened during the meeting or what anything the legislator said, you don't have a sense of what they said or what it meant. So it's really important to get as clear as possible in the meeting where the legislator stands and what their questions or concerns are. Great. The next thing here that I want to talk about is beyond the issues here, what we want for you to do for just yourselves as being engaged constituents and engaged members of your community is to be building a relationship. And so think of this really as a conversation as a two-way street. You all are going to be presented with an opportunity to share your stories and to make these asks. But you should also use this as an opportunity to learn about what the legislator themselves might be interested in, what their priorities are, learn about their relationships in the community, and figure out, are there ways that maybe you might be interested in showing up in support of some of the things that they're doing. Just think about this as a relationship building opportunity and an opportunity to really listen to what they are saying to you. We have this acronym called LAURA, which is listen, affirm, respond, and add. So listen to what they're saying, let them know that you're hearing it by affirming it, and respond to it, and feel free to add on to what they're saying and engage them on it. Okay. So what can you expect to see from your legislators? A lot of our legislators, unless they're like champions, are going to do some variation of this. Even if they're generally good on our issues, they're going to do some variation of this, which is filibustering. You introduce the meeting and you say, oh, I went to high school in Blair. And oh, I went to the same high school. Do you know so and so and so? And they might just be, don't exactly know what their intentions are in that moment. But what we do know is we usually have a constrained amount of time. And the results of engaging in that kind of conversation can be filibustering if it goes on and on and on. So don't let them filibuster. Listen, respond, add to what they're saying, and then redirect the conversation. They might be vague. You ask for them if they're going to commit to voting for the legislation, and they say, I support the legislation. So we got to push back on that. Answering a question with a sequitur, or and you got to follow up and get them to be specific. These are the things that you just want to keep in mind as you are engaging with them. So it's important, as important as it is to have the meeting, it's also very important to do the follow-up. This is how they know. I like to think for particularly CCAN's lobbying program, that legislators know that we're very serious because the follow-up is happening from their constituents and not from CCAN staff. So it's right after the meeting, right? You're comparing notes that were taken during the meeting with everyone in the group, making sure that we're all clear on the outstanding questions from the legislator, the next steps, the commitments that they made. Send that follow-up email promptly. Doesn't need to be super long. You can keep it brief. Copy everybody, those in the meeting. put everybody's names at the bottom, thank the staff or the elected official. Always can't go wrong with overthanking them even. And make sure that you remind them of what they agreed to. This is critical for us to continue to be persistent because we don't want for them to feel like they can walk away from the commitments that they've made. So if there's next steps, set some deadlines. You know, we'll get you the answer to this question within the next week. Let's be sure. I know you said, legislator, that delegate, that you needed a few days to think about this legislation. So we're going to follow up at the end of the week about this. Be persistent and set deadlines in your follow-up communication. Okay, great. I know I've been talking quite a bit, so I would love to get to, see what time is it? I would love to just see, Lauren, maybe if there's any questions that have been posted in the chat, or to take a minute, Beth or Dustin, if there's any sort of urgent questions that are in the room before we go into the modeling. It could take just a couple of minutes.
We do have one question here asking you to explain the acronym LAURA again.
Yes, happy to do that. So for Laura, the LAURA is listen, affirm, respond, and add. And I think I actually have Dustin to credit for that acronym. So listen, affirm, respond, add.
We have at least one question here in Prince George's. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Bob. I was just wondering, I mean, a lot of the legislation is repeat of last year, so we know where it is. But what about the new legislation, like the solar legislation, which is, you know, adding on and new? Where can we find the drafts of these legislations?
Yeah, so the drafts have not been filed yet. And I think, Dustin, do you remember what the pre-filing deadline is?
I do not recall, but we can send that to you in our follow-up email.
Yeah. The legislation should certainly be filed before the session starts. I know Delegate Charkoudian has been working really hard on the legislation. The essence, the main components of the legislation will remain the same once it's drafted and published for consumption on the MyMGA website. Any other questions?
I have another question here if there isn't anything from the rooms in person.
We do have a question from Baltimore.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. We'll take two more questions, then we'll do the modeling. Great.
Yeah.
Two questions. Can you?
Yeah.
Or I can. Here we go. Yes.
Okay, question number one would be, what's the likelihood that we will actually get a meeting with these legislatures? Wouldn't their agendas be full? Like what's their, I guess, interest in actually meeting with us?
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna pass that one to Dustin, since Dustin's actually worked in the state legislative offices. So Dustin, you want to answer that?
Yes. So the likelihood is very, very high. And you're right, their schedules are packed. They are very, very busy getting ready for the upcoming legislative session. And they do love their holiday breaks. But the number one people, especially heading into 2026, an election year, even if they're going to get 90% of the vote, the people that they want to hear from are not folks like me. the lobbyists. They want to hear from people in the community. They want to hear things about what you're seeing. They want to make sure that you think that they're doing a good job. They absolutely want to hear from you, and that's why it's so important to be able to share your story on these priority issues.
Okay, follow up. Well, follow up.
Yes.
Different question. There are two pieces of legislation that we have not talked about today. One is the Climate Solutions Now Act of 2022 that was passed. It's gotten significant pushback from a lot of people. We needed to stay strong, and we need the building environmental the standards to maintain as they are. There's a lot of people pushing back, so we need to do as much push forward as we can. I'm an architect. The only way we can design better buildings is if there's the legislation supporting us, because the clients are not interested. So we really need this legislation that was passed, BEPS, Climate Solutions Now Act, to remain as is, and I feel like there needs to keep being a push from everyone to have sustainable buildings. And then there is Council Ramos Odette. She's trying to pass a deconstruction legislation. She's working on this piece. I've been in conversations with her to kind of advise from the construction community how we can recover more of the buildings that are falling apart and just recover those materials, reuse them, create a new workforce, all of this. So I feel like that's also something that this community could help push forward once she has the legislation, the bill ready, which I don't know when that will be, but those two things.
And I'm sorry, your name again?
Ursula.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And be sure, please, to Dustin, if you don't have contact information already, just be sure to connect. Absolutely on the Climate Solutions Now Act and building electrification, what I will say is that from our Maryland director, Brittany, these are priorities that we know that we are going to be doing a lot of campaigning on. And also there's a whole suite of priorities, particularly in terms of the Climate Solutions Now Act and protecting the progress that we've made in building electrification that I know that Brittany is working on, that we're going to be doing more lobbying on. So if there are climate issues like that for folks who are joining this call, that you're not hearing sort of your priorities in this moment, the things that are really motivating you, please do connect with your organizer, and particularly if you've got some expertise in that issue, we would love to work with Brittany, have you work with Brittany, and to be coordinating on, testifying and lobbying on these issues. We'd be very happy to elevate those. Yeah. And Lauren, we can take one more question from the chat, and then I want to make sure that we get to our modeling.
All right, great. It looks like we have a question maybe geared more towards Beth. Alexander asked, are there any elected officials in Prince George's County that we should target for lobbying?
Beth, you want to answer that?
I'm just making sure that I was still unmuted so I could speak to that. So we've been having in-district meetings already in District 22 and District 47. So those are the two that we've had in Prince George's. So no, the one in 47 is actually tomorrow morning. We had one with one of the delegates in 22, and depending on where folks are, those different groups have been reaching out to the other delegates and senator in those different groups. But if people live somewhere that's not District 22 or 47, I definitely want to help folks get plugged in for the remaining districts that we've got, so those other folks can build relationships with their legislator as well. And I'm glad to help folks get plugged in for that.
Okay, great. Thank you for Thank you for answering that. Beth, do you want to take us into the modeling?
Go ahead and kick off for our modeling.
Yeah,
All right.
well, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Provide the context and set us up for the prep session.
So what we're going to be doing in three different locations, four different locations. Mustafa, Lauren, Dustin, and I are going to simulate a demo meeting with Dustin. Dustin taking the role of being the chair of the Senate Energy, Education, and Environment Committee, we lovingly call the Triple E Committee. We are meeting with him because, and let me know if folks online can't hear me okay. We expect all of our top priorities to be going through his committee, and we want him to hold hearings on all of the bills. And so we're going to be talking, I'll be facilitating for the solar bill and the SEAF. Mustafa will be speaking to that. Lauren will be speaking about the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act. And after that, I will close everything. And so before the anticipated meeting, Mustafa and Lauren, we're going to meet, we're going to have a huddle. We have about 15 minutes to meet with Chair Branch. I was going to go ahead and take the facilitating role and open it up. Mustafa, are you okay to be a storyteller for the solar bill and for SEAF?
Yes, I can. I think I can do that. Yeah, I think I can do that. I want to look back at the worksheet on the storytelling and the issue, but I think I can think of something.
Okay. We're going to be meeting with him shortly. Are you able to go ahead and do you have something you could say, and we can work on fine tuning your story a little bit later?
Yeah. Well, I think what I could say is that I've been blessed to be able to get solar on my home, but it was very costly. I'm here because I'm very concerned about the climate crisis and the need to clean up our whole grid. And so I want to get as much solar selfishly out there as possible. So I think we got to make it more affordable for people, and to lower their energy costs. So I think, to me, there seems to be, probably a close connection between these two issues. So I could tell some version of that.
Okay, well, it's personally impacting you, and I know that's going to be the thing that really matters to Chair Branch. So it sounds like we're on our way with that one. After saying your piece, can you make the hard ask for Senator Branch, for him to commit to supporting those? Well, one of them is a piece of legislation, and one of them isn't, but can you ask for him to support?
Yeah, well, I think Beth, do we think that we should, because it hasn't been brought up for a vote yet, right? Right, or so should we, with Chair Dustin, should we make an ask to maybe bring it up for a vote?
So it hasn't been, well, the SEAF is in existence now, and we want to make sure that they don't go after that and take money out of that.
Yeah.
And the solar bill is going to be introduced, so it hasn't been brought up for a vote yet. But we want to get support from them as early as possible, and now is the time for us to know if they're wishy-washy on it, so we can come back and ask again.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. And after that, the other thing that we wanted to ask was about the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act. Lauren, you had talked to me before about how that was something that was fairly important to you. Do you have a piece that you would like to share about the intersectionality of those two things?
Yeah, in fact, I do. I just took the CCAN Story of Self training a few weeks ago, and now I'm prepared to tell my story while lobbying and frame it in the experience that I had and the choice that I made to come there today and ask for change to be made.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you have something personal to say and that you can make the ask for Senator Branch for that. So those were the two things we were gonna ask for support with. Um, and then we'll see what he says, and I will respond as best I can, and then we'll wrap up after that. Did either of you have any questions before we get started with talking with the senator?
How much time do we have with the senator? Do we
About
know?
15 minutes. He might let us go on a little bit longer, and he might also like to talk, but we have it should be about 15 minutes.
Okay. So yeah, I'll try to keep then my piece to like 2 or 3 minutes or something like that.
It would be good for both of you to keep your pieces to about 2 or 3 minutes each. That's a good flag.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Great. I'm ready to do it. Yeah, this was great. Thanks for talking through an agenda. This is very helpful.
You're welcome. So we'll go ahead and scene. And we'll pivot over to speaking with Senate Chair Branch.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to my office to meet me and my staff. But please, no need for formalities. I prefer Chair Dustin. Chair Dustin will suffice.
Chair Dustin. Good evening, Chair Dustin. Can you hear me okay?
Of course.
Okay, excellent. So my name is Beth Landry. I live in your district near Liberty Square. I wanted to thank you for meeting with us this afternoon, especially after your support for climate forward legislation, such as voting for the Renew Act this past session. My fellow advocates and I are climate constituents with CCAN Action Fund. We're here today to share why a few environmental policies and procedures are so important to us, and I would graciously ask my peers to introduce themselves also.
Hi, Chair Dustin. My name is Mustafa. I use he, him pronouns. I also live in your district, and yeah, just really excited to talk to you about some climate legislation.
And hi, Chair Dustin. I am Lauren. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm in District 20 in Silver Spring.
All right. Thank you both. I believe Mustafa was the first person who wanted to speak to two of our three particular issues that we wanted to bring to your attention today.
Yeah, Chair Dustin, I know that you are obviously the chair of this committee, and you're really familiar with issues around renewable and clean energy. There are two issues that I want to talk to you about. So one is solar, and one is protecting the Strategic Energy Investment Fund. The solar bill I'm talking about is the one that's drafted by Delegate Charkoudian, and is building upon the success of the legislation that you helped pass last year, the leadership package, the energy leadership package that included lots of investments in solar and in wind and battery storage. And so what I still think is a challenge for me personally, though, is in my community is like it's really expensive still to get solar installed. In the last few years, I was fortunate enough to find a solar provider that was able to install solar panels on my home. The system itself cost $30,000, but the way I was able to afford it was I was able to sell back the SRECs to the company. This was unique. Every other company that I talked to was not willing to buy the SRECs back. But after selling the SRECs back, it was $2,000, which is still out of reach, I think, for a lot of people in the community. And so I'm here because I know that this solar bill from Delegate Charkoudian, because it's focused on implementing balcony solar and making sure that we're building buildings to code to be able to allow for that, that we are incentivizing all of the usage, all the solar industry and technologies, that we're incentivizing the building out of all of them, that it will make sure that do a better job of lowering the costs for people. So that's one. The second thing is on CEF. This is directly tied again to for me the energy affordability piece. Because I was able to put solar on my roof, my energy costs have dropped significantly. In fact, majority of the months throughout the year, I'm either not paying anything on my energy bill or I'm getting money back. And I want for that to be the case for the rest of Marylanders. I don't want for them to have to be worrying about their utility costs. And so I want to be providing relief to the CEF budget and making sure that it's not being rated for general budget purposes. And so Chair Dustin, I wanted to just see if this is, if you support Delegate Charkoudian's initiative here to make solar ubiquitous for Marylanders across the state, as well as to be protecting the CEF fund for its intended purposes.
Well, first, I just want to express how excited I am and grateful that you were able to install an affordable solar energy equipment in your home. As you know, I care about every single corner of my district. However, I do need to take a little bit closer look at Delegate Charkoudian's bill in order to fully understand how these changes would affect the solar energy industry. As you know, because of the federal government, so much of that is in flux, and our partners in the solar energy industry, both producers and distributors, we also need to make sure that we are doing everything that we can here in Maryland to support them and keep them going. So I would need to look a little bit more into the bill.
Happy to flag that for the CCAN team, Chair Dustin, and to have them follow up with you about that. I'm curious if there are if you have any sort of more specific questions that you would like to relay back, and get answers on to formulate your position on whether this is going to advance in your committee.
Yes, I am curious how the specific size of each solar energy installation, what the criteria are for, as you know, it's bracketed for these kinds of reimbursements. What the criteria are, how much falls into each bucket, and where that money is going to be shifted.
Got it. Okay, great. And the legislation is still being drafted, so some of those specifics are being ironed out. But it sounds like, Chair Dustin, that you're really interested in having the conversation on this issue, and that you agree that energy affordability and making solar accessible to all of your residents is a priority issue for you to address.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll be sure, Chair Dustin, to follow up with you about these questions. Maybe I'll have the CCAN team and Brittany follow up with you in the next 4 or 5 days to send some materials to you and to schedule a conversation, perhaps even with Delegate Charkoudian, to talk through the specifics, given that the bill is in its drafting process.
That would be wonderful. Delegate Charkoudian and I are great friends.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much, Chair Dustin. Really appreciate you hearing me out on this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Dustin. While we don't have the bill language, while we've been on this meeting, we sent over to your office fact sheets for some of these, so you should have those, and your staff would have those after our call. But I did want to pass it over to Lauren, who's going to talk about the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act and why that's important to all of us.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. I am advocating today for the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act, and I am a resident of Maryland's District 20. This is important to me because I was raised in the Philadelphia suburbs, and my family constantly used the regional transit lines to get to work and to school and to get around. Our family shared one car, and that was what worked for us because it was more affordable for my family. But recently, our transportation system was had severe budget cuts because of Pennsylvania's state budget, and it made it so much harder for me and my family to get around. The trains ran way less often, and that meant that any changes to my schedule could leave me stranded in the city after work, needing to get picked up by one of my family members by a car. It was a really frustrating experience, and it was really hard to live with that. Now I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I feel very lucky to not have a car and to be able to use the Red Line and the Montgomery County buses to get around. But that said, I still feel constraints about where I can travel. It makes it hard to visit friends who live further out in Silver Spring and to be able to get to other areas of Maryland, such as Annapolis for work or things like that. My hope is that people who don't want to drive or can't afford to have multiple cars for their family do not have to feel limited by the lack of public transportation options. I know what happens when a state deprioritizes public transportation. I saw it, I lived through it, and I don't want Marylanders to suffer the same fate. I made a choice to fight for better public transportation in Maryland, and I don't want us to just have any public transportation system. I want one that is expansive, thriving, and affordable. So Maryland needs to invest in clean transit so that people who rely on public transportation can get everywhere they need to go in a reasonable amount of time. So thank you, Chair Dustin.
Well, thank you so much. And first, I'm so sorry to hear that trains have been increasingly becoming delayed. Much of the turmoil, as you know, the Metro Red Line is based out of DC, so a lot of that is up to the Trump administration. As you know, I am a steadfast supporter of public transportation. That is what carries the lifeblood of our great state commuters every single morning and evening, and that has to be as reliable and on time as possible. I am grateful, given that the pre-file deadline is tomorrow, to hear about this new bill. I would love, if you can get me some more information, I would love to be a co-sponsor.
That's really great to hear. I can definitely get you that fact sheet.
Well, that sounds really wonderful. Thank you, Chair Dustin, for meeting with us this afternoon. We're grateful for your time and, of course, your consideration, especially of these issues that matter an incredible amount to us, to you in District 40 and your constituents, and of course, all Marylanders. Like I said, we have a few resources that we've sent over to you and your team so that you can have for further consideration, especially for the balcony solar bill and for the SEEF. And we're looking forward to following up with you in a couple of days for after you've been able to take a look more at that, as well as when the bill language comes out. And yeah, we've sent that over to you, and we look forward to talking more with you. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you again. A member of my staff will be reaching out.
Thank you. Scene.
Okay. Great. All right. So I wanted to take a 2 minutes here to debrief, and then we're going to go into breakouts for most of the rest of our time, and at the end we'll talk through upcoming events and just next steps, and give you an opportunity to give us some feedback to help us continue to improve on our training. Were the roles and agenda clear? Folks can just feel free to just shout out. You don't have to raise your hand, you can just shout out.
Yes.
Yeah, and just and also in sort of answering the question, just if yes, and sort of why. What did you hear that made you think they were clear?
Okay, I would say that from the information we were given and what we know, that it was very direct. You went in, you went by who, where, what, and why, who we are, where we live, what we want, and why it's important. And the ask was, it was actual, it was brief, it was compelling and direct. So you use the A, B, C, and D, and it was not rambling. You know, you set a timeline as to okay, when you gonna get back to us, and instead of just giving him the paperwork, you also send it to the staff, because people in these positions they lose paper, they don't know where it is. So I could see a track that you were running on, and the one that we use, and it's very, very effective.
That was great. Thank you so much, Reverend. Thank you. Yeah. And for somebody else, did you hear personal stories? And if so, where did you hear them? What connected with you?
I like the story from Lauren when she gave her past experiences from another state, and how that those same issues were happening in Maryland. I like the way she tied in the inconvenience that her family had to deal with. My daughter-in-law is in the same situation. If she doesn't catch that train from DC, then somebody has to go to DC and pick her up. And so sometimes that can be a little frustrating, especially when you haven't finished your work, and you want to try and stay and wrap up some of it, you want to stay and wrap up so you don't have to deal with it tomorrow, but you don't have a choice, because if you miss that train, you're not getting, it impacts your whole family. That's into dinner time, picking up kids, the whole 9 yards. So I thank you, Lauren, for your story of the past and your present, and the impact that it has not only on you, but all of your family members.
Lauren, I really
Absolutely.
said,
Go ahead,
I
Reverend.
really loved it. Lauren, you touched my heart. I am wheelchair bound, and I don't have anybody to come get me in a car. I haven't driven for years. My husband doesn't drive. And because my wheelchair is the 4th used wheelchair I've had that Medicare has refused me over and over again to get me a new one, I have to get on the train. I cannot get home if I don't, because this wheelchair doesn't fit in anybody's car. And me crawling into somebody's car is always hard on me physically, because I have to move like a monkey and use my arms. So when I talk to my legislators about transit, the first thing I tell them is, I am a woman without choices. I'm 66 years old and my patience is very small. So these are my questions. What are your answers? But you did it so beautifully and so diplomatically that I thought, oh, they should never let me talk to those people. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
Reverend, thank you for that. Yeah, but Lord, what I love about this is I think that probably most of you, if I were a betting person, that most of you are going to remember how Lauren made you feel more than probably most of the content that I shared with you. That's like factually about the legislation in the context of this presentation. And I just hope that that's a demonstration and an example that like legislators are also human. They're going to remember how you made them feel and how they connected with you. Great, thanks for sharing that. And then let me see if we can get a response from the Prince George's room. Were the asks clear? Did we make clear asks?
I've got the mic here and I'm waiting for folks to speak up.
Question. I noticed that the stories were very pointed and to the, you know, a very narrow focus on them. Is that on purpose, or do you ever go into like these meetings and like expand on it? For instance, with like the transportation thing, like what about dedicated bike lanes, or, you know, or is it the point to keep it pointed and narrow?
So that's a great question. That is something to be thinking about when you're doing the preparation for your meeting. This is not it's dependent on the amount of time that you expect to have. And I think it's also dependent on the stories that the people that are in the meeting, what they have, because people may have different experiences with clean transit and with public transit that you think are compelling stories that the legislator should hear. So in this instance, we covered, you know, multiple sets of issues, 3 sets of issues in 2 different stories. And we knew that we had just 15 minutes to do the meeting. So we wanted to, we kept it tight.
And I would follow up. It depends. Some of our in-district meetings that we've had with legislators have been 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on how much time that they offer, which you'll usually see a bookended time. But when you're in Annapolis for like a lobby night and it's meeting, they're usually shorter like this. So.
And I'm guessing you reverse.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing here in a second is talking about it and practicing. Mustafa,
So,
yep, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I would say is, you know, the asks I think were pretty clear. We can go in with some more poignant, like direct asks, particularly with leadership during session, like with the chair Dustin. We could and probably should have, because we'll have the legislation filed, legislation will be moving. There would be more of an expectation to go into the meetings with will you have a hearing on this issue? Will you be voting for it in committee? But I think, you know, given that particularly this context that the legislation is being drafted and shopped around, particularly for the CEF as well as for the solar bill, that this was good for its context. I think, you know, particularly in my interaction with Dustin, I was trying to really listen for what were the challenges, what were the questions to anticipate, and got some clarity on those. The important thing here is, I think, just naming what the next steps are. We're following up via email in the course of the next 4 or 5 days. We've got the fact sheet on the TCA, and we've got the questions that we need to be addressing regarding the solar bill. The one piece where we didn't sort of build in that time that I would just note for folks is like really building the relationship and doing more of a give and take and hearing from Dustin about Chair Dustin about what his priorities are and what he's expecting for his committee this year, which we could have done that, and particularly if we had more time, that would probably be a place that I would go. What I would like to do right now, I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, folks, give me 1 second because I stopped sharing my screen. I would love to get us into the breakouts, and I'm trying to find my screen, my share screen button here, but I'm worried that it's disappeared and then I can't find it. That's a little strange. Okay. So what I would like to do is for folks to break out for, we'll go until 8:25, so I'll have 30 minutes. What I'd like for you to do is to spend 15 minutes just prepping for spend 10 to 15 minutes prepping for your meeting, just identifying the goals, organizing into the meeting roles, while making sure, Lauren, you can put the meeting agenda template into the chat. Taking a few minutes after that, 5 minutes, to jot down bullet points just on your story. Once you've identified the roles and things you'd like to want to be talking about, just thinking about a challenge that you face, a choice or a set of choices that you've had to make that are connected to this issue and the values that are a part of this issue. And then if you have time, it's great to start practicing having the meeting amongst yourselves, just practicing talking about the issues, practicing sharing your story, and then giving a few minutes for feedback at the end there. And I'll be sure to put this all in the chat for you as you do the breakouts. But Lauren has put breakouts on our screen, which you should be prompted to join one of these teams, and they're spelled out by district numbers. So we have districts 1 through 13, and then 45 and up in our virtual space, districts 14 to 20, districts 21 to 26, districts 27 to 39, and districts 40 to 44. These are largely, although not exclusively, clumped by regions. So if folks could select the breakout that's relevant to your district, that would be great. And if you don't know what your district is, Lauren, if you wouldn't mind plugging into the chat again, the MyMGA link. And Lauren will be happy to help you get into the correct breakouts.
Well, so I know my district, but how do I join the room? How do we, is there, I didn't get what you were saying.
What is your district number?
District 10.
District 10. Okay, great. I will assign you to the correct breakout.
Me and Normita, District 10.
Okay. Let's see. And Angelique, you're District 8. Great. So I can move you to that. See that.
I'm sorry, I'm actually District 41. I'm sorry.
Oh, District 41. Okay, let me move you again here. Hold on 1 second. Okay, great. Angel, what district are you? Or we can move down the list here. Barbara? Okay. Cynthia, do you know what district you are?
27C.
Got it. Okay.
27C.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
You should be prompted to join that breakout now.
I think I'm in District 22.
Barbara, District 22. Fantastic. Okay. And then, see, Jen, let's be sure to move you. There you go. Great. Betsy? Or let's go, Maureen. You know your district?
Yeah, I'd just like to listen. Can you just put me in a group? Mary Washington is my senator. Boyce and Embry are my delegates. I think it's 43,
Okay.
but I don't want to talk
Absolutely.
to you. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
That's okay. That's okay.
It's Betsy
Go, I'm
Ainley.
sorry, go ahead.
I had to switch to all kinds of crazy things to get back. Now I'm on my phone to stay on. But
You're
anyway,
okay.
I'm District 43. B.
District 43. Okay, got it.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Great. And let's see, Crystal? Do you know what district you are, Crystal? Okay. Sam or Malcolmia? Gaston?
43.
43. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. District. Okay. 43. Got it.
Malcolm 41.
Malcolm 41. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. Great. I'm going to, Lauren, why don't you just stay here for a minute? It looks like we didn't have anybody from districts 14 and 20, which is strange. But I'm going to go talk to Barbara in District 21 since Barbara's by herself, and I think I'll move her to District 27 to 39 just to have a little bit more of a group there.
Great, I can move her right now.
Okay, why don't you do that? Great. Okay. You okay to hang out here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyone else left in this room need help getting into a breakout room, let me know. You can type it in the chat and I can send you over. And you can just listen in the breakout room. It will be more beneficial than waiting here.
Hi, everyone. I hope folks had a nice time talking to each other and sharing your stories of why you're motivated to be lobbying on particular issues. And so thank you all for spending the time doing that and thinking through just what it's like to be preparing for lobbying. I'm sorry, I'm skipping back and forth here. What I'd like to do is just to take maybe 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, just to get a few thoughts from folks on just anything that you learned and what was impactful to you in terms of the stories that you heard, things that you learned in your breakout. Well, maybe we'll hear from like 3 folks. We can get from 1 person on the virtual room and 1 from each of the physical rooms. Anybody would like to share?
Mustafa, in the Reverend Laura Mendes had a compelling story about the transportation, what she's dealing with as a result of the Maryland Transportation Act was passed in March of 2023, but is not being enforced. So she's had a horrible day today dealing with the inadequacies of the compliance of that act, and we talked about that and how we can go back. We got the bill passed along with other coalition, but we need to go back now and let the powers to be know that this act is not being carried out, that people like Laura, she can tell her own story, but this was very compelling to me. So, that's something that Bridge can follow up on. I don't want to take too much more time on that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Clearly an impactful story. Dustin, from the Baltimore room, is there anything that someone would like to share in terms of what was impactful for them, or something that they learned during the breakout?
Something that you learned, or?
Sure. I mean, I think Lauren's story was really impactful for me. I feel like she really explained it so well. I just here with our group, I was adding the bike infrastructure component to the clean transportation. For me, I'm like a person that bikes to work every single day. Biking makes my life better. I'm in such a better mood. But also it's easier to get to my job biking or anything else I want to do than driving. Driving is expensive. It takes way more time than biking, and buses are just not reliable. So similarly, I've experienced the 45-minute wait to a bus that never got there, and have realized biking is the best way to get anywhere. But I do fear for my life every time I am on my bike going to work, because I've been run over. I haven't been run over, but I've been almost run over multiple times, even though I wear bright yellow. In fact, today I biked to the train station, to the train to DC, biked from the train station to my office, did the other way around. So I've biked 12 miles today, plus taken 2 trains. Big advocate for clean transportation, but also a good network of bike infrastructure that makes me feel safe on my way to work instead of fearful that I will die.
I will make you
Absolutely. Lauren, look at what you've done. You've set off this whole train effect of people really thinking about their clean and safe transit options and choices. So that's amazing. Do we have maybe just 1 person in the Prince George's room, and then I will round it out very briefly with our next steps here.
We're here. Sorry, trying to find unmute.
I'll come to you.
Should be able to.
That's okay. We were very interested in the problems of financing rooftop or any kinds of solar. We know that Trump called back all of the Green Bank money and getting rid of all the incentives. So we were wondering if there's any way to incorporate a Maryland Green Bank into these legislations so that people can get a reasonable interest rate. You know, Maryland could loan to the residents at the rate that it borrows, which is much lower than what as long as they're borrowing to buy solar panels or something like that, which would be much lower than any interest rate that a person could get from a private bank.
That is a great point, great question. So
I
Beth,
love
and
that idea.
Yeah, we can follow up. Thanks so much for that. Okay, great. So what I want to share is I just want to highlight that we have some events that are coming up, and I'm going to be inviting Lauren to put links in the chat. And don't worry, if I know there's a ton of links, so there will be a follow-up email that I will be sending out by the end of the day tomorrow with all this information. So don't worry about it. But the next thing that's coming up is this December 4th, our virtual monthly membership meeting from 7 to 8 p.m. We are going to be with our Maryland director, Brittany, and we're going to be doing a workshop on how to write testimony and submit testimony on, for during the legislative sessions. Also, it's an opportunity for you to come and follow up on any questions that you have or feedback that you have on the legislative priorities and issues. So I encourage you to sign up for that if you're interested in learning more about the format and the process for submitting testimony during session. Also a great opportunity to continue to craft your story. And then we also, January 14th, are going to have our first day of session action. The focus is going to be calling for the Renew Act veto override. So that's going to be in Annapolis at Lawyers Mall in front of the Capitol building. And the next thing I want to highlight is lobby night, which we are for sure doing. I think the time actually is going to be between 5 and 8 p.m. I think we just decided that. So we will make sure that you have that event page and you can decide to sign up if you would like to join us. In terms of your next steps here, you can, first thing is tell us about you and your climate story. Tell us, we want for you to be sharing with your organizer, Beth, Dustin, just to tell us what volunteer roles you are interested in. So we will have a climate act. We're going to have a survey that's going to be in the follow-up email. You could say if you're interested in submitting testimony, if you're interested in going lobbying, if you're interested in doing postcard writing, different activities. You should write out your story. If you're thinking about your story right now about these issues, take the time now while this is fresh to actually write out your one-page story about why this issue is so important to you. Do that by December 1st. Reach out to your organizer, get connected to your lobbying team. So we actually have some teams that are doing in-district meetings now over the next few weeks. If you're interested, you can get plugged into those. If you want to organize in-district meetings, you can talk to your organizer. But also we will be having weekly lobbying opportunities during session for folks to come up to Annapolis or to be submitting written testimony, different opportunities for folks to get involved. And then the second thing is lobbying your legislators. So making sure that you're signing up for the events that I just talked about. So without taking more time, because I know I'm 5 minutes over, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us. I am putting here the QR code is being shared on the screen for the evaluation for this training. So if you would like to provide feedback, we would love to have it and to help us continue to improve upon these trainings that we do. So thank you all so much. I'll keep my shared screen on for a few minutes, and I'm happy to stick around and answer questions for those who are joining virtually. Otherwise, thank you so much to the folks that are in Baltimore and in Prince George's County. This really truly felt like a statewide event. Thank you all so much, and for coming together and building community, a lobbying community together.
Mustafa,
Yes,
do we have time for a Baltimore team chant?
let's do it. For those who want to stick around to hear it, you're welcome.
All right, my Baltimore friends, both in virtual land and here in person, our chant is who can, we can, Baltimore, CCAN. One, 2, and 3. Who can, we can, Baltimore, CCAN.
Yay! Thank you all so much.
Can we have a Baltimore chant that says, we will get it done? We
All
will
right.
get it done.
We will get it done. That's right.
Heard that.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, my
I'm happy
friend.
to answer questions if folks want to talk for a few minutes. I'm happy to answer questions.
Good
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.